There is a secret whispered in the ancient breezes, an echo that reverberates from the first glimmers of consciousness. It is not a truth shouted in marketplaces, nor displayed in palaces. It is something felt in the stillness of the soul, a premonition that, in the end, nothing will be lacking. Yes, this phrase, so simple yet so overwhelming, carries the weight of 1,000 eras and the promise of a future that sometimes feels distant, unattainable. But what does this completeness truly mean? Is it the absence of material want, emotional fulfillment, or perhaps something deeper, transcending ordinary perception? Imagine for a moment that life is not a series of random events, nor a frantic race for possessions and recognition. What if, instead, it were an intricate tapestry, where every thread, every color, every knot, no matter how insignificant it seems, has its purpose in a larger design, invisible to eyes that only see the surface? From the alignment of the stars that guided ancient navigators to the complexity of a single cell, there is an underlying intelligence, a flow that orchestrates the dance of the universe. It is in this flow, this invisible current, that the essence of nothing will be lacking resides, not as a passive assertion that everything will be provided without effort, but as an active understanding that, when aligned with this current, provision is inherent. Consider the great myths of humanity, from the Hermetic teachings of Thoth, the scribe of the Egyptian gods, who revealed the correspondence between the microcosm and the macrocosm, to the Indian Veda, which unveiled the unity of Atman and Brahman, the individual soul and the universal soul. In each of these narratives, there is a common thread. The idea that we are part of something greater, a consciousness that manifests in multiple forms. The concept of nothing will be lacking echoes the promise of an unbreakable connection to this primordial source. It is not about having everything, but about being everything, about realizing that absence is an illusion of the conditioned mind, and that fullness already resides within us, waiting to be awakened. This is where psychology meets philosophy, where human behavior intertwines with spirituality. Why do we incessantly seek something outside ourselves? Why the craving for recognition, material goods, or relationships that often imprison rather than liberate us? Could this search be a distorted echo of the soul's true hunger, the hunger for wholeness? Carl Jung, with his deep dive into the collective unconscious, showed us that archetypes and ancestral symbols shape our psyche, influencing our deepest fears and desires. The hero archetype, for instance, on their journey, always faces darkness to find light, to transcend duality and achieve wholeness. This journey is, in essence, the quest for the truth that nothing is lacking, that we are complete in our essence, even amidst challenges. It is an invitation to look within, to unravel the layers of conditioning imposed by society, culture, and past experiences. Who are we, truly, behind the masks we wear, the roles we play? What if the answer to this question led us to discover that lack is not an intrinsic condition of existence, but a constructed perception? If this conversation is touching something deep within you, a recognition, perhaps it's time to join us on this journey. Subscribe to the channel so we can continue exploring these truths together, and feel free to engage in the comments, sharing your own insights. After all, the beauty of the quest lies in the exchange, in the collective of minds daring to question. Life, as Heraclitus taught us, is a constant flow, a river in which we never bathe twice in the same water. But if the river is always moving, what remains? The essence, the energy that animates this flow. This energy is the same that resides in us, in every falling leaf, in every star shining in the night sky. The sense that nothing will be lacking arises when we connect with this energy, when we realize we are an integral part of a universe that is, by nature, abundant. So, what makes us feel lack? What drives us to hoard, compete, fear, scarcity? It is the disconnection from this source, the illusion of separation that makes us believe we are alone, at the mercy of circumstances. Consider Greek mythology, where fate was woven by the goddesses who controlled the thread of every being's life. Even in the face of predetermined destiny, Greek heroes like Odysseus, on his long journey home, demonstrated remarkable resilience, a capacity to persist despite the greatest adversity. They did not question fate, but honed their virtue and inner strength to face it. This acceptance and refinement are not synonymous with passivity, but with a deep understanding that, even when the tide seems against us, an inner force sustains us. It is faith in the process, the certainty that, somehow, the path will reveal itself. In Buddhism, the understanding of suffering is not a pessimistic view of life. but an invitation to liberation from craving and attachment, the roots of discontent. When we free ourselves from attachment to outcomes, to what should be, and embrace what is, the mind quiets, and the perception of completeness settles in. It is as if, by letting go of what we thought we needed, we discover we already had everything. The mind, in its relentless quest for control, often traps us in cycles of desire and frustration. But what if true freedom lay in trusting the flow of existence, in allowing life to unfold in its own wisdom? The Stoics, with their philosophy of living in harmony with nature, taught us to distinguish between what we can control and what we cannot. Accepting what is beyond our control is not resignation, but a form of wisdom that allows us to focus our energy where it truly matters, on our attitudes, our inner choices. This perspective frees us from the burden of expectation and enables us to find contentment in the present moment, recognizing that, even in the most challenging circumstances, there is an opportunity for growth and the manifestation of our inner strength. So, what does it mean, in this moment, that nothing will be lacking? It is not an absence of desires, nor a denial of the reality of difficulties. It is, rather, a subtle and profound understanding that life, in its essence, provides exactly what we need for our evolution. The universe does not operate based on our superficial expectations, but on the deeper needs of our soul. Often, what seems like a lack, an insurmountable obstacle, is actually a portal, an opportunity to discover inner resources we didn't know we possessed. Consider Norse mythology, the tree Yggdrasil, which connects the 9 worlds, sustaining the cosmos in its complexity. Every leaf, every branch, every root is essential to maintaining balance. The energy flowing through this tree, nourishing everything, is the same that connects us. If a branch feels lacking, it is because it has forgotten its connection to the root, to the primordial source. Similarly, when we feel lacking, it is because we have lost awareness of our connection to the vast web of existence, to the intelligence that orchestrates every heartbeat, every breath. Anxiety, for instance, is the shadow of uncertainty, the fear of what might be lacking in the future. Depression, in turn, is often the weight of what was lacking in the past, or the perception of an irrecoverable absence. But what if the present, this fleeting moment, were the only reality where fullness can be accessed? What if nothing will be lacking were not a promise for tomorrow but a truth for now? It is in the present that we have the power to choose how we perceive our reality, how we respond to challenges, how we connect with the abundance around us. Transpersonal psychology, which delves into the spiritual dimensions of human experience, suggests that much of our suffering comes from over-identification with the ego, the persona, the story we tell ourselves about who we are. This identification leads us to believe we are isolated beings, vulnerable to scarcity and loss. But when we transcend the ego and connect with our deeper nature, the self, our divine essence, the perception of lack dissolves. He lost everything, his wealth, his family, his health, yet his unwavering faith and deep acceptance of divine will allowed him to transcend suffering and, in the end, be doubly blessed. The pain of detachment is one of the greatest sources of human suffering. But what if detachment were, in fact, an act of liberation, a way to make space for something new and more aligned with our purpose? Why is this disconnection so prevalent, this incessant search for something that always seems to slip away? It is not a flaw in the system, nor a divine whim. It fragments us, separates us from the whole, makes us focus on parts at the expense of unity. A deep understanding that happiness and fulfillment do not depend on external factors, but on an internal state of being. They did not deny life as difficulties, but saw them as part of the process of purification and enlightenment. For them, the sense that nothing will be lacking was not blind faith, but a direct experience, the fruit of alignment with universal truth. We are bombarded with messages telling us we need more, that we are insufficient without the next product, the next experience. This is the great trap of the illusion of lack. It keeps us in a cycle of external seeking, preventing us from recognizing the wealth we already possess. But the universe, in its infinite wisdom, continues to whisper the truth to us through signs, moments of clarity that break the routine of our perception. They had cracked the mystery. Lack is an invitation, a sign that we are ready to go deeper, to transcend self-imposed limitations. She symbolizes the readiness to help all beings without distinction, expressing the boundless abundance of love and compassion. Compassion is not a virtue to be acquired, but an inherent quality of our divine nature, revealed when we overcome the barriers of the ego and recognize our interconnection with all beings. When we act with compassion, there is no lack, for the act of giving and both giving and receiving becomes a continuous flow, a manifestation of abundance. The sense that nothing will be lacking blossoms in the heart that opens to others. It is in this fragmentation that the illusion of lack takes root. On a symbolic level, alchemy refers not only to the transmutation of metals but to inner transformation, the transmutation of lower consciousness into higher consciousness. Lead is our limited perception, our lack, our fears. Gold is fullness, wisdom, connection with the divine. The alchemical process requires discipline, self-knowledge, and deep faith in the process. In the end, what is revealed is that the gold was always there, merely hidden beneath the impurities of conditioning. When we view the world through the lens of the ego, we see competition, limitation, scarcity. But when we connect with a more expanded consciousness, the same reality reveals itself as interconnected, abundant, and perfect in its flow. The answer, perhaps, lies in the very nature of consciousness and the journey of self-discovery each of us is invited to undertake. Impermanence is a fundamental truth of existence. Everything arises, peaks, and dissolves. Resisting this truth is fighting against the very nature of life, but it is also a universal journey, for all human beings, on some level, yearn for this completeness. What do you believe would truly make you feel that nothing is lacking? Is it an object, a relationship, a status, or is it an inner shift, a new way of seeing the world and yourself? Accepting it, on the other hand, is finding peace in transience and realizing that true security lies not in what endures, but in the ability to flow with change. Job's story is not about resignation but about understanding that true wealth lies not in what one possesses, but in the integrity of the spirit, in connection with the divine. At times, we'll feel we've regressed, that lack strikes us again, but each return is an opportunity to deepen understanding, to strengthen faith in our own essence. It is like the seed that must pass through the darkness of the earth to sprout, or the river that encounters obstacles in its path, but continues to flow, carving its way. The essence of nothing will be lacking is knowing that, even when the external world crumbles, the inner fortress remains intact. We understand that we are part of an indivisible whole, and that the universe's wealth is our wealth, and direct access to abundance, to Gnostic narratives that speak of a primordial forgetting of our true divine origin. There is a constant, the idea that we fell into a state of illusion, where separation and scarcity became the lenses through which we perceive reality. This fall is not a punishment, but a condition for growth, for learning, and ultimately, for remembrance. How could we appreciate light without knowing the shadow? How could we recognize fullness without feeling lack? The concept of wu-wei, often translated as known action or effortless action, suggests that, instead of forcing events, we should align with life's current. This does not mean inactivity, but action arising from inner wisdom, without resistance or attachment. When we practice wu-wei, we find that things manifest with ease, as if the universe conspires in our favor. The sense that nothing will be lacking is a natural consequence of this alignment. Imagine a moment in your life when you felt something essential was missing. How did that perception shape your actions, emotions, decisions? What if, in retrospect, you could see that this lack was actually a catalyst for unexpected growth, for discovering an inner strength you didn't know you had? Life often presents us with voids, so we can fill them with something new, something more authentic. Paradoxically, scarcity can be the greatest teacher of abundance. Consider the story of Job in the Judeo-Christian tradition. Many Eastern philosophies, like Taoism, emphasize the importance of living in harmony with the natural flow of the universe. The Tao. How often do we cling to something or someone, believing that without it, we won't be complete? This journey of understanding nothing will be lacking is not a linear path but a spiral. And here we reach a crucial point, a philosophical and spiritual mystery pulsing at the heart of this conversation. If fullness is our intrinsic nature, why does the vast majority of humanity experience the sensation of lack? From the myth of the Garden of Eden, where humanity lost its innocence, the very structure of our mind, with its capacity for analysis, distinction, and categorization, though essential for survival in the physical world, also plays tricks on us. Consider the great sages and mystics of all traditions. What did they have in common? It is like alchemy, the ancient art of transforming lead into gold. This is a solitary journey in its essence, for no one can undertake it for you. The modern mind, so focused on productivity and consumption, often pulls us away from this inner quest. Consider the figure of Kuan Yin, the Bodhisattva of compassion in Buddhism. Archetypal psychology teaches us about the shadow, those aspects of ourselves we repress, deny. Paradoxically, it is in integrating the shadow that we find wholeness. Instead of fleeing our imperfections, our fears, our lacks, we must embrace them, understand them, and thus transform them. The son, impatient and eager for freedom, demands his inheritance, spends it all on worldly pleasures, and, finding himself in extreme want, decides to return to his father's home. Our limitations are, in large part, mental constructs, barriers we erect, based on limiting beliefs, internalized fears. When we know that nothing will be lacking, the fear of failure diminishes, anxiety about the future fades, and creativity and intuition can flow freely. These synchronicities are not mere chance, but manifestations of the universe's intelligence, signs that we are on the right path, that we are being guided, that provision is ever present. The sense that nothing will be lacking is reinforced with every synchronicity, every door that opens, every opportunity that arises unexpectedly. It is as if the universe whispers, "Trust, I am here, supporting you at every step." We act not out of need or fear, but out of inspiration, a sense of purpose that transcends the ego. It is an invitation to let go of control, to trust in the flow of life, to recognize our own divinity and the vast abundance of the universe. It is a call to live with an open heart, a present mind, and a connected soul. Do you see them as obstacles or as opportunities for growth and alignment with the truth that provision is constant? Fullness, on the other hand, is our true nature, a song the soul sings seed. When you release the chains of having, and embrace the truth of being, when you understand that your essence is already complete, rich, and interconnected with the vast web of life, then, and only then, does the phrase "nothing will be lacking" become not just a promise but a reality, lived in every breath. Lack is an invitation to awaken. An awakening is the promise that abundance is inherent to your existence. The universe owes you nothing, but nothing will be lacking, for you are already the fullness. The more we know ourselves, the more we understand our true needs, our deepest values, our soul's purpose. And when we are aligned with these purposes, life flows with greater ease. The things we need seem to appear at the right time. The right people cross our path. Opportunities manifest. It is a living testament to the truth that, when you know who you are and where you're going, the universe conspires in your favor. It is an invitation to dream big, to dare more, to trust in the flow of life. When we are grateful for what we already have, we open space to receive more. Gratitude raises our vibration, connects us with the energy of abundance, and allows us to recognize that, in essence, nothing is lacking. It is a virtuous cycle. The more gratitude we practice, the more abundance we perceive, and the more the truth of nothing will be lacking manifests in our experience. The phrase "nothing will be lacking" is, in this context, a paradigm shift, an invitation to dismantle these barriers and recognize the vast wealth within and around us. It is a reminder that the universe is an ocean of possibilities, and scarcity is but a drop of water in the vastness of abundance. The Father, in his infinite compassion, welcomes him with open arms, celebrating his return. At its core, this story is not just about a son who loses himself and finds his way, but about the human soul that strays from its source, its true home, and after experiencing scarcity realizes that fullness was always waiting. The abundance was not what he sought outside, but what was always available in the unconditional love of his home. What seemed like a limitation can become a source of strength once brought into the light of consciousness. Where have you perceived a lack in your life, and how has that perception, in some way, propelled you toward an unexpected path? The illusion of lack is fueled by a series of factors, many of them social and cultural. From an early age, we are taught to compare, compete, seek external validation. The media bombards us with images of perfect lives, ideal bodies, material achievements that supposedly bring the coveted happiness. But happiness based on having is fleeting, like sand slipping through your fingers. It vanishes the moment the next novelty appears, leaving an even greater void. True joy, true fullness, lies in accepting what is, and celebrating the present, in gratitude for what we already have. It is in this space that the truth of nothing will be lacking reveals itself. Consider the parable of the prodigal son, a timeless story of loss, repentance, and redemption. Ancestral wisdom tells us we are limitless beings with infinite potential. However, this understanding does not mean passivity or inaction. On the contrary, it impels us to act in a more aligned, conscious way. Consider synchronicity, a concept popularized by Jung, describing the meaningful coincidences that occur in our lives. How have you interpreted the signs life presents to you? This journey toward fullness is also a journey of self. Many spiritual traditions speak of the importance of gratitude. Gratitude is not just a feeling but a practice that transforms our perception. So, what is the secret to living the truth that nothing will be lacking? It is not a magic formula but a shift in consciousness. The revelation, the great understanding, is that lack is not a condition of existence but a perception. It is a lens we choose to wear.